Geoff, you're an NFL draft analyst all of a sudden, we see.
Yeah. It's the first year ever covering it. So I'm glad I was able to participate. Yeah, I've never done it before. So I'm glad I was able to participate this year in the discussion about the NFL draft. I'm excited. We got mock drafts that are coming out, pro days. Did you guys know that NFL scouts go to pro days? Every time there's a pro day, they tweet out who's going to be there. It always shocks me every time. So, but glad to talk draft bear because I think there's value in some of these wagers. Now, not as much as there used to be, but the numbers can move kind of crazy after a day of news.
No, they always do, and that's the biggest edge that us as bettors can have is just it's an information based market, and that's why the books don't like to put them up. There are some things starting to pop up in faraway places in terms of draft positions. I think BetMGM has some draft stuff up.
Yeah, DK has them up. I mean, they have them up. So look, I mean, I think you make targeted wagers right on what you hear, and there's two of them I like. I think I've shared with you guys. Probably I'll share them now because look, my mock draft sort of is what it is. It's sort of what I think might happen. Obviously, it changes.
You just kind of threw stuff against the wall, made it up as you went along.
Yeah, I just made it up as I went. I think Will Campbell's going 4 overall to New England, and there's many situations where this plays out that way, right? So you have one where we know Cam Ward's going 1. I think we all agree on that, right, guys? Cam Ward's going 1. If it then goes how I think it might go, like Shadur Sanders, then Travis Hunter, and then you're at 4 with New England. Are you taking Abdul Carter? You don't need pass rusher. You need offensive lineman. Let's say it goes how other people think it's going to go, right? Where it goes Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Hunter. Again, you're sitting with an offensive tackle as a huge need. So I think Will Campbell, it was what 400 plus 400 to go 4th overall just a few days ago. It's slowly ticking down. Bear, I like him to be the first offensive lineman drafted. I like him going to New England.
It sounds like you're with me too on this bet, looking at your mock, and I would bet this still at minus 150. As we've learned over the years, guys, minus 150 in a draft is very cheap.
Yeah.
You could see that number tomorrow be minus 250. And then 3 days later, it drops a whole position. Colston Loveland, 19.5 under at minus 150. I love that bet. It might lose, but I feel like it's only going to go one way. It's not going up. It's not going to go to 20.5, 21.5. I think by draft night, that could be closer to 16.5, 15.5. What do you think on Loveland, Geoff? 19.5.
Yeah, I mean, look, tight ends are so impactful. We know Warren's probably going 1, right? He's going tight end 1. He's like favored by his numbers crazy.
9.5 now on Warren.
I mean, yeah, because they think he might go 9, right? Like that's where he might go. But you look at teams like 10 through 15, 10 through 20, they need tight ends. Like the Colts have been mocked to have a tight end. Like every mock draft has a tight end. And it's Loveland, right? He'd be right there at 14. So I think that's a good wager because I think tight ends, they're so important. He's a pass catching guy. I get that. He's not a blocking tight end, but I like that when you're right, the price of that's going to change a lot.
Yeah, I don't know why the Jets wouldn't be in the tight end for a market for a tight end. I mean, trust me,
Absolutely.
they were very close to taking Bowers last year, and they ultimately took the offensive lineman. And the impact that Bowers had on the Raiders offense last year could have been rookie of the year if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels. I think teams are going to see that. So I think you're going to see a couple of tight ends go very early. So I like that under for under 19.5 for Loveland as well. I'm just thinking this through with Ward. We think there's zero chance that the Titans are just bluffing this for a trade and Abdul Carter is their guy. And the only reason I say that is because they've got their stadium, they've got the new GM, their coaches, all of their job security is set. You get the impact pass rusher at 1. Maybe you can take a quarterback at the top of round 2 or whatever. But next year, you're potentially going to have Nussmeier, and you're going to potentially have Arch Manning. If you could take a Manning in the state of Tennessee to be your quarterback, like, forget it. That would be through the roof in that state. But so I'm not all the way there that it's a lock that I think the Titans are going to, we'll see if they get if it is a bluff. we'll see if their bluff gets called. I do believe the Browns like Cam Ward, and the Browns want Cam Ward. It's just a matter of whether they make a trade up or an offer to try and trade up, or they see if the Titans actually do take him.
I'm not laying Cam Ward minus 3,000 at MGM.
Hell no.
That's not happening. They're giving you Carter at 15-1. Other books are 8, 9, 10. I'd bet a little at 15. A little. Just a taste, guys. I mean, 15-1's crazy on Carter.
Bear, let me ask you, and you can be coy about this if you want. Is this something that's popped in your head, or you talk to people? Do other people think this?
I know. I don't. The theory about taking Carter number one and everything, that is just me. But I do know for a fact that the Browns do like Cam Ward, and they absolutely would.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, if he's there at 2, they'll take him. It's a question of whether they need to trade up. But the number one, my theory on Tennessee and taking Carter and then hoping for Nussmeier or Arch next year, that is just me spitballing.
Well, if Kevin Costner's there, he'll take Abdul Carter no matter what.
I mean, the thing about Abdul Carter's foot, guys, kind of worries me going 1 overall, right? I mean, or even training back to 2. Like, we don't know how bad his foot injury actually is, but I could see that, teams saying at the top of the draft, like, we can't risk. If you're Tennessee, like, you need an impactful player immediately, whether a quarterback or someone else. You have to have that guy come play. Their roster is sort of barren right now of impact players. Are you going to trade back, which I think it's certainly possible to Bear's point, and then draft a player who potentially has a foot injury? That I think is a very big unknown. We don't know the medicals, right? We won't know that as teams decide to set their draft boards up. That's what worries me about Carter being drafted so high. Is if he had clean bill of health, I think I would agree with impact he can have on a team, trade out of there. The trade partners, though, Bear does feel like it's only the Browns, right? The Giants are out, right? They've signed 2 quarterbacks, and I was told before Russell Wilson they were out. How much do you put into reports about, Tennessee, again, flying their entire staff for his pro day? They brought the social media team as well, which signals like we're making content to put out at some point about Cam Ward being a Tennessee Titan. And that's unusual to bring your social media team. Like I get the coaches being there, but it does feel like they're all in on Cam Ward. And that's what worries me about any team trading up is you must give an offer that is just not worth it for the Titans to move down at all.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does seem like they're. It could be if it's not real, it's the all-time smokescreen. But we'll see ultimately that we think though in terms of the big picture with quarterbacks, there'll probably be 3. In the first round is what you think, Geoff?
I like the Steelers draft a quarterback. The number yesterday was a little bit higher. It was like 450 on one of the domestics. It's like 325 now. I mean, look, think about where Pittsburgh's at right now. As of right now, they don't have a quarterback for next year, right? Is Mason Rudolph? You're a de facto Steelers fan, Bear. Is Mason Rudolph going to do it for your wife? Is she excited?
No, but I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to do it for my wife.
But Aaron Rodgers, if he wants to be a Steeler, he could do it today. He could do it right now. The offer's on the table. Just become a Steeler. He clearly has reservations about that. They have to draft Jackson Dart if he's there. Like, what are they going to do? Not have a quarterback this season? They're going to wait for Jalen Milroe to be available or Quinn Ewers? I can't imagine that. So I had Pittsburgh drafting quarterback. Will I don't know. I got a good number. It's probably going to move down even more. But I just think you look at where the roster is right now and where they are drafting, they need a quarterback.
And Bear wants Milroe on the Jets, right? Milroe Jets, that makes perfect sense, I think. Right?
Round 3, round 4, sure.
Who do you want the Jets to get?
I want them to take one of the tight ends.
Okay.
I when you've got a quarterback who can't throw like they have with Justin Fields, you need some type of security blanket / offensive weapon that can get the ball in those shorter to intermediate routes.
Kyle Brady 2.0.
What's that?
Kyle Brady 2.0.
Oh Christ! Oh, that was an awful day. Oh, that was an awful day. I will never forget when they passed on him and being. I think the draft was still at Radio City, and I was working for ESPN at the time with covering the draft. And when I'm like, oh my God, the Jets are going to get Warren Sapp, because I was literally like a couple of years out of Miami. I'm like, oh my God, the Jets are going to get Warren Sapp. The Jets are going to get Warren Sapp, and
they didn't get him.
And like you have the pick, like the pick channel on the headset. like when the card gets brought up to the podium, like for graphic purposes, you know who it is at that point, and you hear the Jets take player number, whatever the ID number is, blah blah blah, tight end Kyle Brady. I'm like, oh no. It was just terrible. But I know I think Loveland and Warren are clearly
The
different.
two best,
You got the Warren and Brady Penn State parallel. But I think both.
Sorry, Barrett. Let me give you one more thing that I heard this morning on the Vikings, and Will might be able to back this up. It sounds like they're done at corner in free agency. They signed Rodgers. They got Jeff Okudah. And there's another name that I'm being told is basically a done deal, but they're going to wait for some cap implications. Vikings are plus 180 to take a corner, but 250 to take an O-lineman. I think O-lineman's the move. Why would they're going to bring in 3 corners in free agency? Why would they draft another one? So Will, they have a big hole at left guard, right? I would think Minnesota goes O-line with their first pick.
Yeah, at plus 250, that's certainly interesting. And Barry, you just triggered something in my memory. The draft used to be so much better. It would be noon Eastern on Saturday.
Oh.
People would boo the picks. The announcers would criticize picks. Now everyone, it's kick gloves. They don't want to be on social media, freezing cold takes 5 years later, saying, "Oh, what a terrible pick," and the guy ends up being good. Draft used to be so much better.
I agree, and you're right with the position of where the Vikings are going to be drafting too. It seems like O-line like that, like because it seems like you got a couple of. And Geoff, I don't know your opinion on this. Like, it feels like you got a couple of pretty elite prospects, and then like the middle part of the first round, you might be like offensive line free, and then back end is probably where you might get a Banks and with the kid from North Dakota as well.
They will,
yeah.
I mean, look, it depends on it. There's only 2 true interior offensive linemen that are going the first round, and it might be one. Tyler Booker's going the first round from Alabama, and then you mentioned Zabel from NDSU. Like, those are the only 2 interior guys. You might move Banks inside. I wouldn't, or Connerly inside, or Simmons. I mean, there's guys you might move inside, but there's no one. I think if Zabel and Booker are gone, which is certainly possible with Saddle going and doing that.
That's what I was going to ask you, because Seattle's kind of in that. What do they pick, 17 or 18 or somewhere around there? And like that's a team. I was told that they interviewed like close to 24 offensive linemen at the combines. It appears like, I know people are trying to target like a wide receiver to replace Metcalf, but if you can't keep Sam Darnold upright, like what good do any wide receivers have you?
This is the hard part about the draft for all of us, right? Is we just don't know where guys are ranked on everyone's boards, right? Because you can make the argument that this is a much deeper wide receiver draft than offensive line draft, right? So if you're trying to find elite, impactful players, you could take an offensive lineman at 18, let's say, that can play right now, and then take a wide receiver in round 2, 3, or 4.
I would do.
And the hit rate is a lot higher in this draft than the inverse of that, right? Where you take a wide receiver at 18 and take an offensive lineman in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th. There's just the offensive line class. I mean, maybe you take Jackson from Ohio State and he's your guard, but there's no guarantee that he's available in the middle of the 2nd round, right? Someone might take him much earlier. So I think if you're in that position early in the draft, not really early, but really 10 to like 20, there are teams that need offensive guards. You got to take them now and wait for wide receiver later.
So Geoff, you mocked 5 offensive linemen in the first round?
If you say so. No, I think it was Campbell, obviously, the kid from Missouri, Connerly. I put Zabel and Booker. I think those were the 5. And Banks, maybe 6 then. I'm gonna have 6,
and the over/under is 6.5. Is what the total? That's why I was asking.
I think the linchpin for that is what Kansas City does at 31. I don't think they're taking offensive linemen. I think they're taking defensive linemen. I think they have to take a defensive lineman. But if they go offensive line, I think you're going over 7. You go over 6.5.
Wow, you gave the Chiefs an Oregon guy. Really bold.
I wrote. I don't know if I kept it in there. I wrote like I saved him for the Chiefs. Derek Harmon could certainly go much sooner.
Your 2 favorite teams.
I think Derek Harmon is really good, guys. I think he's being really over. He's 6'5", 315, had 50 pressures at defensive tackle in college in a single season, which is really hard to do. I think he's really good. I did save him, Sammy. I purposely saved him. How do we feel about Genti to the Bears?
They're so dumb if they do it. They have so many holes. They're so dumb if they take a running back.
I'm glad you said that, Geoff, because that's what I was going to say when you were talking about the inverse with taking an offensive lineman in the first round and then taking a wide receiver in like round 3 or round 4. I was going to say, like, Like Genty has been like mocked to the Raiders by everybody. And my thought process with this is that, again, this is well, you brought it up before where like you talk to people, this is again just me spitballing. I haven't spoken to anybody with the Raiders or whatever else, but if you're the Raiders, a team with so many holes and a new coaching staff in there, you're going to take Ashton Genty at 6, right? Is where they pick. And then whatever else, it's a deep running back draft.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you take Jalen Walker, whomever, at 6, and then take one of the other running backs at the top? Do you take Trevion Henderson, a running back with Chip Kelly's familiar with from Ohio State, or one of the other running backs, Dylan Say, whomever, at the top of the second? Like it feels like the hit rate on that and the impact rate on that is better than taking Ashton Genty at 6 and then whatever else you're going to get down the board from I don't know, but I played at, again, one of the places that have him up. I played Ashton Genty under 9.5, thinking that the first spot he really could go would be the Bears. And I was even texting you guys before the show, like I wouldn't take him in the top 10. And it sounds like you agree, Sammy.
I wouldn't take a running back in Chicago. I know that maybe Ben Johnson might get blinded by the success with Gibbs, but Gibbs is Gibbs because of the O-line, because they have guys like Penei Sewell on the line. Yeah. So even though they made some moves, brought in Tooney and brought in Jackson and all that, they still need O-line depth, and they need guys on the D-line too. They need depth in the trenches, and hopefully they realize that.
Barry, you brought up that the Raiders wouldn't do that, and you gave out all reasons I agree with, but does Pete Carroll think that way? He's more of an old school guy. He's still a guy, punts 4th and 1 from midfield. That's like a running back. Look, Pete Carroll's an older guy too. With his age, it's not like he's going to be around coaching that team 5-7 years from now. Probably wants an instant impact guy. He likes running backs. That was a running game defense really team with Seattle when he won it all. And Sammy brought it up. Gibbs, and I'll throw in Barkley. I know they're playing behind really good offensive lines, but a running back's cool again. Could you sell it? Like, all right, running backs, they were overrated for so long. They were interchangeable. Now we're realizing they're matter again. I wouldn't do it. I'm completely with you guys. I just wonder if the pendulum's going to start to swing the other way and you can kind of sell it.
There is a massive prop in there too about number of running backs over under 2.5, and the under 2.5 is massively juiced. I mean, there's no way 3 of these guys go in the first round, right?
Sounds
unless
like it would be expensive
Chiefs
if it did, right?
Do the Clyde Edwards-Helaire deal again, which I doubt they're going to make that mistake again. I mean, they need a running back. Maybe at 31, they're like, I don't know. There's no one else we like on our board. We'll take the 3rd running back. I think 2 is right. Genty and then Hampton going. Everyone has them mocked to the Broncos, which I think they certainly could take a running back.
Broncos have like 9 running backs, don't they?
They need 1. 3. There's 3. We have so much time to talk about it. The 3 running back system is silly and a waste and makes no one good. So you need 1 running back. That's it.
Yeah,
just 1.
Mike Shanahan needs to really figure that out.
Bear Bets full episodes drop twice a week right here on the Bear Bets YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to stay ahead of the odds, and let's celebrate all of our wins together.